Senate Republicans raced this week to introduce a $1 trillion coronavirus stimulus package. Lobbyists for industries left reeling by the pandemic were hustling just as hard to shape it.
The bill's unveiling on Thursday capped an extraordinary week on K Street in which trade group after trade group asked Congress for sums that would have been unfathomable just a few weeks ago: $1.4 trillion to shore up the manufacturing sector, $4 billion for museums, $100 billion for doctors, nurses and hospitals.
The Senate's breakneck work to craft relief legislation this week has driven a frantic effort from industries crippled by measures taken to slow the spread of the virus as well as those who have suffered less harm.
Not everyone got what they wanted in Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's bill. But it wasn't for lack of trying.
The Hill appears to be overwhelmed with people advocating for why they're uniquely affected by the coronavirus epidemic, said Sean Kennedy, the top lobbyist for the National Restaurant Association, which asked Congress for more than $300 million in relief this week.
The Restaurant Association has mobilized its members to make tens of thousands of phone calls to their lawmakers. With many restaurants shuttered to slow the virus spread, their proprietors have had plenty of free time to become armchair lobbyists, Kennedy said.
Other lobbyists have pleaded their clients' cases to a handful of aides to top Republican senators, such as Erica Suarez in McConnell's office and Nick Rossi, who's chief of staff to Senator John Thune, RSD, the number 2 Senate Republican.
Some lobbyists for industries hit hard by the restrictions imposed by coronavirus were underwhelmed by what they got in McConnell's bill: $58 billion in loans and loan guarantees for the airlines and another $150 billion for other, severely distressed sectors of the economy, as well as nearly $300 billion in loans for small businesses.
We think it will be insufficient to stem the tide of job loss and closing of hotels that we're seeing, candidly, said Brian Crawford, the top lobbyist for the American Hotel and Lodging Association. We're hoping this is an opening salvo.
It needs to be bigger, said Tory Barnes, the top lobbyist for the U.S. Travel Association, even though she praised of the measures it includes.
The hotel and travel industries personally pleaded their cases to President Donald Trump and Vice President Mike Pence in a meeting at the White House on Tuesday, warning that the industry could shed millions of jobs in the coming weeks without significant help. The hotels asked for $150 billion in grants, along another $100 billion for the broader travel industry.
McConnell's bill would force hotels and the travel industry to compete with restaurants, casinos, distillers, moving companies and manufacturers, all of which have asked for aid this week, for $150 billion in loans.
The legislation will need the support of Senate Democrats to pass, giving lobbyists for industries that feel they've gotten short shrift another chance to shape the bill before senators leave town in the coming days.
Not every industry lost out in McConnell's bill. The airlines, which asked for $59 billion in cash, loans and loan guarantees, got $58 billion in loans. Nick Callio, the head of Airlines for America, the industry's trade group, said the money will keep the airlines going for 5 to 6 more months.
We have been hit the hardest of anyone by this, he said in an interview.
The National Retail Federation, meanwhile, secured a tweak to the Republican tax law that it had been pressing for since shortly after its passage in 2017. The fix would return an estimated $15 to $30 billion to hotels, restaurants and retailers that have upgraded their properties over the past 2 years but haven't gotten a tax break for it, according to the trade group.
David French, the National Retail Federation's top lobbyist, said it was harder to lobby for the provision because he couldn't meet with senators or their staffers in person, with the Hill mostly closed to visitors.
It's working, but it's certainly not like in the old days, he said.
Lobbyists' inability to meet with lawmakers and administration officials face-to-face hasn't stopped them from trying to cash in on their connections.
Have you adjusted your consultant strategy and team lineup in light of the new coronavirus realities? The lobbyist Terry Allen wrote in an email to potential clients on Thursday morning. Fidelis Government Relations now has best-in-class reach into both VP Mike Pence and incoming White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows.
The lobbying shop boasts the services of Pence's former chief of staff, Bill Smith, as well as Wayne King, a former aide to Representative Mark Meadows, RNC, whom Trump tapped earlier this month to become his next White House chief of staff, Allen wrote in the email, which was obtained by Politico. Pence is quarterbacking the government's response to the coronavirus, he added.
In an interview, Allen said he'd already gotten a call from a potential client in response to the email. While the pitch emphasized the government's coronavirus response, Allen said the pandemic wasn't the focus of the firm's lobbying efforts.
Regardless of whether the coronavirus is prominent, our lineup is strong, he said.